if you stayed up late last night to watch that absolute debacle that was the national championship game, a final score of 65-7
You
is what
didn't
we
have
had.
to stay up late though. That's the thing. You could have. I mean, I went to bed at halftime.
Yeah, that would have been the smart move. That would have been the smart move. 65-7. Final possession of the game for TCU. And it is still Max Duggan getting sacked relentlessly by Georgia's defense. I mean, look, I don't know, but holy smokes, it looked like it was one of those games that made you think about how did Georgia get here? How did TCU get here? How did Ohio State lose to Georgia by, with an opportunity to win the game? How did Michigan lose to TCU? How did Michigan beat Ohio State? You start doing that thing, and next thing you know, you're 6 degrees of separation for a championship. I mean, it's simply incredible. And there was a lot of opinions last night about that game and how, Michigan, how did they ever lose to TCU? I really think it's a matchup based game. I really do. And some days you're going to go out there.
It has to do with just turnovers at the right or the wrong time. You jump a couple routes, you get a couple pick sixes early in the game. You never know what can happen. That didn't happen last night.
Or you just forget to guard the two tight ends that are over 6'9". How does Georgia have a tight end that makes their 6'7" tight end look tiny?
They're farming them, just like Purdue.
Like
There
needs to be investigation on Georgia's tight ends and Purdue centers, because they're creating super soldiers.
Yeah, they are, and it's I just you look back at Michigan versus TCU, and oh my goodness, one bad pick six and boom, that's it, right away. And then never being able to rebound. Not looking prepared. TCU did not look prepared for that football game last night. So, all right, the national championship was an absolute stinker. UGA won its second national title in a row. Only the fourth team to do so since 1990, and the first in the 9-year college football playoff era. Doesn't that seem kind of weird? It beat down TCU, which this hasn't been seen in a college football title game in any format in 152 years of college football. You could go back to some of the biggest blowouts in title game history. The 1971 Orange Bowl had Nebraska beating Alabama 38-6. Pardon me?
It's also the biggest win in bowl history.
Biggest win in bowl history. 72 Rose Bowl had USC thumping Ohio State 42-17. Oklahoma in 1985 won 25-10 over Penn State. Nebraska in 1995 won 62-24 over Florida. USC 55-19 winners over Oklahoma. Florida in 06 41-14 over Ohio State. Like, there have been some lopsided games. Alabama over Notre Dame 42-14 in the 2013 BCS championship game. My goodness, a 65-7. An epic beatdown, demoralizing for the Horned Frogs, who I don't know if you follow along with social media or not.
But come on now. What is it? You got there.
Yes.
Was it was it demoralizing for Michigan when they got stomped in the semis last year?
Yes. Were you around Michigan fans?
Yeah, that was a demoralizing. That was you thought you were good, you're not even close.
When MSU lost 38-0 to Alabama in the playoff. Yes, because
I was at Old Shillelagh. That was a good night.
Yeah, Mr. I don't care. I kind of root for a team. I picked one.
No, I don't.
The pandemic.
I'm just saying. I just don't see how you can say, like, your TCU, your first year head coach took you to the national championship. I don't care how bad you lose. You're in the national championship.
Yeah, you're not going to think about that way for 2 months, though.
Yeah, I think there's got to be a cooling off period right now, because that was such. If it would have been 35-7 or something, okay. But, I mean, the score of this football game was demoralizing. Like,
This is the score Ryan Day keeps thinking of that will never achieve versus Michigan.
I don't know, like a matchup game, man. Ohio State in attitude and how you came in. Was TCU just happy to be there? Were they on the Danny Cahalan? Hey, at least we made it there in Georgia. I thought that when Holly Rowe would ask,
Hey,
Kirby
that's
Smart,
what everybody's saying about Michigan the last 2 years is that once they get there, they're on the gravy train. So
year one, yes. Year two, completely overlooked the opponent. Completely overlooked TCU. Like at what point did you realize that they were there to play? I thought TCU, I mean, I don't know. They just looked happy to be there to me. I mean, Kirby Smart, Holly Rowe asked him, like, what was, what's your message to your defense? They come out here, you deferred the kick. You're coming out there in defense first. And he looked at her and looked at the camera, and he was like, aggression. I was like, this game is over. This is over. I thought TCU had a chance. That's all I needed to hear from Kirby Smart. This is going to be a blowout of epic proportions. Why would I ever think that TCU had a chance to even cover a spread? It's how you play on that particular day. That's that's the craziest part about the game of football. In a one-game eliminator, anything can happen. TCU played about as bad as it could play. Georgia played Georgia football. And I think that if you're Michigan watching that game, dear God, what in the world happened there? That's all I could think about. And if you're Ohio State fans, you're like, dude, we were one kick away from winning a national championship. And I just think that Ohio State came in, they really did come in with that underdog mentality. They came in really ready to play. And they gave Georgia a really good shot. And the Horned Frogs, they walked out there and got just absolutely demolished.
The funny thing is, though, every college football playoff, there's always one awful game, except it's always a semifinal game.
Yeah, there's always that Clemson 34-0 victory over Ohio State. There's always one of those stinkers in
right.
there.
And this year was the first year where we had two great semifinal games. And so we're like, all right, that means the national championship's going to be good.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Brock Bowers said after the game, he's the All-American who brought in 7 catches for 152 and a score. One of the sophomores on the team said, but we have to go back to work as soon as we get home. There's always work to be done. It's pretty interesting. Like, this is how
Not
how
after
you
this
build.
one.
Yeah, I don't know what other good for you for finding some things to talk about, to motivate yourself to get back to work. But, maybe you take a week off before you start your, or maybe it's a couple weeks before you start your winter conditioning program. You let the kids go home if there's any break even left. Or if they're already back in class, which most places are. If you're back in school, then they go right back into school, right back into the grind, and get ready for a spring break. Maybe they can have a chance to go home and see their families at that point. But I'm sure most will choose to go to Cabo and party.